right, so Brian, we finished up the driver. We saw some really, really great shots. Now the question is, what are we going to do beyond the driver? 3 wood, 5 wood. And so through the testing process, there are times where the fairway woods will match the driver. There's other times where they're different.
Right.
How we use them, the shots we want to hit, they're a little bit different. So we may find that, hey, you might be a Callaway in the fairway wood, you might be a different brand. So we're going to do basically a similar process of testing to figure out what's best for you. And I want to start with your gamer.
Right.
Let's baseline it. Let's see what it does so we know how to kind of tweak it or improve it.
Okay, so we're going to start with my actual gamer.
Yes, absolutely. So we'll start with your 3 wood. And would you say the 3 wood, you're primarily hitting off of the tee, primarily hitting it off of the turf into a green, or is it a club that needs to serve both purposes?
I would say both purposes. When the driver's acting up, I hit this long enough where it's still a pretty good off the tee thing, but I like being able to have it on those longer par 5s where I can be aggressive and be able to hit a 3 wood into a green. So a little bit of both is what I'm looking for.
Perfect. So let's test a little bit of both. I'm going to have you hit maybe 2 or 3 shots off a tee, 2 or 3 shots off of the turf.
Do you want to start off a tee or you want to start off the ground first?
Start off the tee.
Okay.
We'll take the ground out of the equation for a minute.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to tag this as current gamer and tee. Again, 2 or 3 shots.
All right, guys, so just a reminder, this is the PXG 0311. This is their Black Ops kind of model. A little bit of a heel strike. It's going to cut just a little.
And then just curious, since this is the first 3 wood I've seen you hit, what do you think of the window that we just saw? Too high, too low?
I like the window there. It was just, again, a little bit of a pull, a little bit of a cut, heel strike. So.
And similar to the driver, are we looking for ideally a tight draw? Obviously,
yeah, pretty straight would be ideal. A little bit of a tight draw or straight ball, or even just a slight cut would be fine as long as our spin numbers are right. That's kind of typically what the 3 would have looked like there. That was a pretty well struck ball.
Now you had mentioned, especially in the driver, it tends to be a little bit spinny. Is that typically something you're seeing off of the fairway woods as well?
Yeah, I know that one looked like it was a little spinny. Typically, if I hit this one well with the right spin, I would say it's 250 carry. So 239, which I know this is not normalized right now. So.
Yep.
Again, a little heely and a little left.
But let's, now that we have 3 shots, good, bad, or indifferent, let's hit 3 off of the turf. And that just, again, just gives us a baseline. What are the tendencies? What's going on?
Right. Maybe just a hair heavy. That was pretty well struck.
All right, so off the turf, really consistent window that we're seeing right there. And before we try anything new, I am just curious, let's see what's going on here looking at the numbers. Dispersion, we do see a little bit better group here off of those 3 off of the turf, but I don't want to read too much into it. We haven't hit a lot of 3 woods.
Right, first couple swings of the 3 wood period, so.
Exactly. So high level though, some of the things that are good for us to look at, there's a very large difference in spin rate. So when we look at off of the tee, we're seeing 4,000 spin on average, off of the turf 3,100, given a fairly similar strike location, slightly heel side. Now, you had mentioned you're typically seeing about 250 in the air. When we normalize it, that's basically right where we're at. Would you say that you're happy with the window that it's currently launching?
Yeah, that was a pretty good window as far as, off a tee and off the ground, should be able to come in fairly softly.
So let me grab a couple of shafts here for some of the new 3 woods that we're going to try. And we're going to, again, try to keep them similar across the board. And then similar process to the driver. Let's figure out what head's working the best, and then we'll fine tune it.
Sounds good.
All right. So now we're going to put these heads on in a similar fashion to what we did with the driver. We're going to keep everything neutral. And then we'll hit a couple balls with each. And then we'll come back. Now in this case, you just happen to be fit into a Callaway driver, so we'll start with the Callaway 3 wood. This is the triple diamond model. We have a 5 gram weight up in the front, which is the standard weight for it. And all these are going to be 75 gram X flexes. So pretty comparable to what is in your gamer. And they're at least fairly common across the board here.
All right, guys, so if y'all remember, we tested out all the 3 woods. We ended up liking the Callaway and the TaylorMade Tour. So we're going to start off with the Callaway Elite Triple Diamond here with the 3 woods. We want to start off with tee as well.
Yeah, let's do the same order that we did with your baseline. We'll do 2 or 3 off the tee and then 2 or 3 off of the turf.
Little Healy again. Need to hit one in the center of the club face. Be nice, testing purposes. A little better, just sent that tee flying.
All right, let's go one more off the tee while we have it. I'm going to take the very first one out there.
Yeah, maybe even the second one too, because it was...
Yeah.
A little bit of a draw, but not pretty well struck.
Great ball speeds. And then one more, and then we'll go off of the turf. All right, now let's go off of the ground, off of that turf.
Maybe a little chunky there. Little Healy. A little better.
So we've hit 3 with each. Now let's go into the TaylorMade world. This is the Tour 3 wood, the QI35 Tour. And I'm curious, first impressions looking down at this compared to everything else. We have basically a glossy matte black top. What do you think when you look down at something that's not as traditional?
Yeah, a little carbon fiber look to it. I like it. That was a little left.
But we may very soon here find that potentially doing what we did to the driver successful. Take a little bit of loft off, face.
Definitely finding the center of the club face on this one better. That both of those were fairly center. Getting a little more out of it too.
Way more out of it. That's really, really efficient right here.
Yeah, that's just...
When we compare the, I know it's a preliminary, but when we compare the TaylorMade versus the Callaway, you are getting about 3% more efficient ball speed on the TaylorMade.
Yeah.
Meaning, given the same swing speed, you're about 3.5 miles an hour faster. And that's a large number. And it's not like it's coming out lower or hotter. You actually have a little bit more spin.
Right. That one had more spin. I hit it a little low in the face, but yeah, still pretty good. Are we good to go off turf now? It was 3 off the tee?
Yeah, let's do off the turf. I'm very curious to see what it does right here. See if that increased ball speed continues. Oh, that's not bad at all. Great ball speed, high launch, good direction.
Felt really good.
Yeah, okay.
252 off the ground isn't bad.
And look at the landing angle, 45.
Yeah.
You 250 out and landed at a 45 angle.
A little Healy,
Oh,
but
wow. Yeah.
that's a real good miss, though.
Okay. Callaway may have won the driver, but I think TaylorMade's edging out here on the 3-wood.
Yeah, a little spinny because it was off the heel, a little bit of a cut. But it was coming back to where I was aiming again. Golf is a game of misses, so my misses being good are what's going to make me play better.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so between those two,
Definitely this feels better. It feels like, I felt that last one was a little Healy, but other than that, center face felt really good for the most part.
your dispersion is much tighter. We're getting the height, you're getting the stopping power. Beautiful. Now, while we're here, I'm curious. GT3.
Okay, throw it in the mix.
Throw it in the mix. Brand agnostic, let's see what it does.
We're gonna go off a tee first, right?
Correct.
Okay. So we have the GT3 in the 5-wood as well. So we're gonna throw it in here and just see. I have played Titleist before, so it's a familiar look and feel, should be. A little bit of a draw.
Spins a little lower than some of the others. Could be coincidental. We'll keep an eye on it.
A little bit of a toe strike, kind of left it out right, just a hair. Again, felt a little toey.
Now at this point, it's definitely that TaylorMade. The contact, you can hear the difference.
Yeah, that TaylorMade is just...
Yeah, it's the TaylorMade.
It just feels so good.
Yeah, so let's keep going.
Okay. So guys, notice that we didn't even bother going off the ground because we're able to see pretty quickly that's not the head because the TaylorMade was so good. So now I guess we'll kind of move into shaft options again and just...
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna put the ones that didn't make the cut off for the back burner. TaylorMade definitely made the cut. And then let's fine tune on shaft. So right now, what we have in here, this is the Tensei AV Limited. This is the 75 gram X Flex.
Okay.
We're talking standard length, right around 43 inches. And we have the head right now neutral, 15 degrees aloft. The sliding weight is in the middle. We can always fine tune that.
Right.
But let's see what some other shaft options will do for us. So let me grab a couple out of the haul here.
A few moments later.
All right, so I'm back here and we have two other shafts that we're gonna do a comparison against. We'll figure out which of these three shafts is working the best, and then the final stage, once we find the winning shaft, we put that back in and then we adjust the slider.
Yep.
So let's move away from this 75X and we'll stay in the 75X world with this guy. This is the Kylie Blue from Mitsubishi. And same thing, 2 or 3 off the tee, 2 or 3 off the turf.
So guys, if you remember when I was hitting this TaylorMade at second swing doing the testing, it was probably one of my favorites as far as the tour. So the fact that it seems like it's the one is not too surprising. Let's see what we can do here. Really well struck, just slightly pulled.
Now I know that one went a little bit left comparatively speaking, but it was also quite a bit of a different window. What do you think of that?
I'm fine with that. It's just about 250 carry, but it's got a little bit more rollout, right? Because it's a little bit lower trajectory. I'm fine with that. Not going to be hitting a lot of 3 woods that need to stop on a dime into the greens. So a little bit of a heel strike, a little cut. That was a toe strike, which is a big draw.
So I do want to see at least one off of the turf, but it might only just be one, because off of the tee, the first shaft is working a little bit better here. So unless we see something off of the turf of, wow, that's really amazing,
right,
I still think our first shaft is in the first place.
Again, just left. Really well struck.
Really well struck. But no, our first shaft is working a little bit better.
Right.
Beautiful. Good confirmation though. Okay, now this is the new TaylorMade Ventus here. This one is going to be a little lighter. This is in the 6 gram class.
Okay. All right, so a little bit lighter shaft. Let's see what this does. Big time toe. Not my best there. It's 2 in a row, way left, but
I'm going to see one off of the turf.
okay.
And then that's going to confirm that we had the right shaft.
Yeah, just everything's just left there.
All right, so we had the winner, just happened to be the first one.
Yep.
Now let's fine tune this loft trajectory port, if you will. What we do from here is going to come down to what you like to see. Okay. So right now, for example, we're seeing about a 45, 46 degree landing angle. Really great for maximizing carry, not as good for getting the ball to roll out per se.
Right.
For a club that needs to serve dual purpose, it's probably in a pretty good spot.
Okay.
So then the next thing is just thinking through your game. Would I use it to hit lower shots? Would I want it to hit more towering shots? Now, not to say that one of these positions is right or wrong, but what we're going to do is we're going to hit all of them, the neutral, the high position, the low position, collect a little bit of data, and we'll figure out what's best for right now, but also put in the back of our mind, hey, what would it do in those different positions? So for example, if you find that you come out and you play one day and it's super windy, you can set this thing to kind of loft down and play it that way. Or like we were talking about, you go to Colorado, loft it up, let's see what it does. So let's figure out, one, where it needs to go right now, and two, where you'll want to put it depending on the conditions you play in. Okay. So let's hit it off the tee. We'll take the ground out of the equation for a sec. And then I did move that weight.
Okay. You moved it a little forward, it looked like?
Yes.
And that should lower spin, lower trajectory?
In theory,
okay.
Yes. I say in theory because everybody is a little different. Some players will react to feels differently.
Well, when you hit a big wipey thing, that's going to spin like crazy. Center contact, just kind of wipey swing. Spin will probably be a little up.
There you go. Oh, yeah.
A little bit lower, a little left, a little heely.
So definitely started out a bit lower. To your point, a little low and heely on the face, pulled it back up.
Just heely again. There we go.
Dude. So weight a little bit more forward, still kept some really nice ball speeds. That was really fantastic. So let's see what happens when we go to the other extreme before we start going off of the turf. This is with the weight all the way forward, lower center or forward center of gravity. Now we're going to move it further away. In theory, more loft, more spin. But again, how people react to feels, we got to test it.
Again, a good miss. A little bit of a cut there, but
so this weight in the back, we're definitely getting a little bit higher launch angle.
Right.
That is for sure. We're seeing the ball speed slightly down. What's interesting though is so far, even though we're getting a higher initial launch angle, it's not making your landing angle steeper.
Right.
So for whatever reason, when we put that weight in the back, your delivery changes just a tiny little bit and the spin comes down. So it's launching higher but spinning less.
Okay.
And when we had the weight more forward, it's launching lower but spinning more. And so a little bit of a play between those two.
Again, a little heely, but again, a good miss.
So you've been super consistent, but again, your landing angle hasn't necessarily gotten better.
Right.
So we've seen it's launching a little higher, your ball speed has come down just a little bit, but we didn't earn the benefit of stopping power. So let's move it back towards the middle where we started. And that seemed to give you kind of the best of both worlds. You still had ball speed and you kept some stopping power.
Right.
So if there are 1, 2, 3, there's 4 settings here. I got you slightly forward in the middle. Let's see if that gets that ball speed back up and we keep the landing angle. I got you.
Okay, appreciate it. A little high on the face, maybe? No?
I lost it, but it sounded great.
Little toey, little kind of a push draw there.
So the ball speed's up. Launch angle stayed up. Spin is also still up and your landing angle is better. So it's interesting that with that weight more forward, you are getting softer landing angles than when it's in the back.
Huh.
Yes.
A little bit of a draw there, but decently struck.
Again, ball speed's up and your landing angle is going to be soft. So let's see one off the turf, just to confirm that we've kept this really good relationship here.
A little low on the face, so it came out a little low, but good window.
Yeah. Still crazy good ball speeds. Yeah, it's really nice. One more for good measure. We'll take a quick pause, and then let's start talking 5 wood.
Yeah.
So I think that's the shot, right?
Yeah, that's the high launch.
Window and everything.
You have better ball speeds, 156, 157, almost every shot. Launching nicely. The spin's not crazy either. These are your last 3 in a row, these 3 reds. Really, really solid. So if we take this one early pull out and you take these 3, 250, 247 average carry.
And that's again for these conditions. So normalized is going to be a little bit higher.
Normalized, we're talking 252.
Which is about what I thought, I'm at.
And still rolling out but also still being able to hold a green.
Yeah. 3 woods, I'm not really concerned. If I'm hitting 3 wood, it's probably a tighter, shorter par 4, and I'm not real worried about it. So sounds like we're going TaylorMade Tour on the 3 wood at 15. Neutral. Is this pretty neutral? Little 1 notch towards the front, right? Is what we're at right now?
Correct, exactly. So if you were to put it all the way in front, pull it out 1 notch.
Okay.
That's where it's at.
Okay. And then we're going Tensai Blue,
Yeah.
75X on the shaft. Sweet.
So let's do the same thing on 5 woods.
Yeah, let's get into the 5 woods.
This guy, I'm going to build it basically the same way. All right, so here we have 5 wood. We're going to do a comparison between the QI35 Tour and we're also going to do the GT3.
Right.
Both of these are on Tensei Blue shafts to match what we found in the 3 wood.
Okay.
Same thing, we're going to hit them off the turf and off the tee. This one we're a little bit more turf centric, but I do want to see them off the tee as well.
Right, so we start off the tee again.
Yep.
5 wood is going to be more off the turf going into a par 5 than it will off a tee.
Yep.
If I'm going to be hitting a shorter club off a tee, it's probably going to be either a 3 wood, and if I feel like 3 wood's too much, it's probably going to be a 4 iron. So most of the time, and I might hit this off a tee, but most of it I think will be off of the turf.
It's going to have no trouble holding a green.
No, yeah, it's definitely a high launch, which is fine. A little left.
Have you played out here on the East Course yet by chance? The 13th hole, the 280-yard par 3, depending on where they put the tees.
That 3 would probably be perfect.
But that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Yep.
So that was 226 carry.
Okay.
We're looking for maybe 240. We'll keep an eye on it.
Again, that's
Yes.
we might be able to switch up a little bit with the weight here and get there. So this is currently in the neutral kind of position there.
Yep, absolutely. Same spot we had your 3 wood, all the way in and pulled out 1 notch.
Again, just a slight pull, hitting it really well though. Yeah, that's definitely a high launch.
So let's see a couple, at least 2 off of the turf. Off of the tee, we have no problem getting that ball up. Your ball speeds are really solid. You're pushing 152 miles an hour, so the ball speed's definitely there.
Pretty straight ball flight there. 154 ball speed.
What do you think of that window?
That was a good window. I liked that one.
Perfect.
I feel like off a tee, it was coming off maybe a little higher.
I agree. That is, 237
Yeah.
and landing 48. Yep, that's gorgeous. Oh yeah, 2 in a row. Okay, let's go over to the Titleist now. We have the same shaft. We also have an 18 degree. The GT3 being the lower spinning model between the 2 and the 3.
Right.
What I really like about what we just saw off of the TaylorMade is that between hitting it off the tee and hitting it off the turf, you're more successful off the turf, which
Right.
we agree. That's where you're going to hit it more often.
Most likely,
anyway.
yeah.
And so it's gapping really nicely with the 3 wood that we had hit a little bit earlier. Let's see where this GT3 ends up.
A little bit heely, but not too bad.
It's a little flatter than we saw on the TaylorMade.
That was a little low on the face, so it's going to come out a little lower.
One more off this tee, and then let's go off the turf.
Again, just a little left. A little bit heavy, maybe.
Came out all right.
Yeah, ball speed's a little down compared to what it has been. That was well struck there.
See, ball speed's definitely up. Okay, I want one more. I do like the ball flight we're getting.
Right.
It's still very early per se, but the TaylorMade seems to be returning to your line better. Again, the ball flight's similar, but both off of the tee and off the turf, this Titleist is getting a little bit more left than we'd like to see. And as somebody with a left miss, we probably don't want that.
Right.
So let's go back to reconfirm. This TaylorMade, was it a coincidence or is it just hitting the right spot?
So off the turf.
Yeah, let's go off the turf.
Okay.
I really like what we saw that first round.
Heel strike, little cut. Again, just a little heely. So guys, you've heard me say it in multiple fitting videos and testing videos. If you feel like you're kind of out of rhythm, slow down. It's easy to just start beating balls and lose track of what you're doing. So step behind the pre-shot routine, slow down, catch your breath. Step into it like you would on the fairway or on the tee. A little toey there. Let's go one more. Getting towards the end of this and we're hitting a lot of balls, so. Just a slight cut.
So let's pause right here, because one of the things that we're seeing, and you make a really good point, we've hit a lot of shots.
Right.
You know, that was shot number 76. They've all been full swing, long woods.
Right.
But one of the things that's catching my attention here is the long to short on this fairway wood is really nice. We're getting a little right to left. That's fatigue. We've hit a lot of shots. To your point, sometimes we're starting to compare one shot to the other, but at least from the longest ones to the shortest ones, distance control is really nice. As we're kind of looking here, we might as well kind of just talk a little bit about some of the data that we've seen so far. And so we've gone through, we've done a driver fitting, a 3-wood fitting, and a 5-wood as well, and we found some really interesting things today. Now, with the driver, this grouping is just awesome, by the way.
Yeah,
we see the centerness of contact, which show on this screen, just make sure it gets in the screencast. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
that's
just
ideal.
kept happening. Shot after shot after shot. So we see really, really nice numbers. You're swinging 112 club speed. We have 165 ball speed, which is a pretty efficient number. Anything really over 147, we're in a good spot. It's launching high, it's spinning a little bit less. You're maximizing carry and still getting everything to release, averaging 280 in the air. Almost 305 total, again, non-normalized. It's a little bit chilly today. We go into some normal conditions here in Texas. You're almost 300 carry.
Yeah,
that's going to open up a lot of really good opportunities on the course.
For sure.
When we look into the 3-wood, 5-wood, today we found both the TaylorMade QI35 Tours to be really nice. And one of the things that we've talked about today is how having that sliding weight on the bottom is going to be really beneficial for what you do traveling wise.
Right.
We can dial it in for right now, lower elevation, we have a little bit more humidity, but then if you do go to, say, southern Utah, or you go into Flagstaff or Colorado, great, we can kind of change it, and we've seen that we have an ability to impact the launch angle in particular and a little bit of influence on the spin as well. So when we look at carry numbers, drivers right around 280. We're seeing the 3-wood is just about 250. We're talking about 252 right there, and that's off of the turf. We're at 247 off of the tee, so very similar. We'll just call it 240. And then when we look into the 5-wood, we're pushing about 230, 235 right now with a combination of both off the turf and off the tee. Now, I know that's a little bit shorter than we want, but again, these are non-normalized. If we normalize those numbers, now we're closer to say 242, and that was kind of the number that we were looking for right there. So across the board, a couple changes to shafts. We went a little bit heavier than your current gamer. You had the VF6X in your driver. We found the 7X to be really nice today. And then we also found that in the fairway woods, we're going up to 75 grams, so just a little bit heavier there as well. Both of those being that Tensei blue shaft. Out of what we've hit and what we've seen, what questions do you have?
Nothing really. I mean, it's been pretty easy to spot what's working and what's not. That's, again, why I suggest highly to get fitted, because when you go buy a driver off the shelf at PGA Superstore or whatever, it's standard specs, standard shaft and everything. So it's most likely not the driver for you. Not very often is someone in a standard spec club. I assume you agree, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've been into our store in the Colony, right? You walk in, there's 20,000 clubs in there.
Right.
What are the chances you're going to pick the one out of 20,000 that fits you the best?
Right.
And so that's one of the things that, you know, really helps separate us as fitters is not only can we find you the best thing for you, but we can find you the best thing for your budget. We're non-commission based, we're brand agnostic, and we have a 30-day play guarantee.
Yep.
If you come in, you get fit and it's just not right, or you're new to the game, you start taking lessons and your swing changes, we'll swap it out for you. So some really cool stuff there as well.
And like I said, by not being brand loyal, but just because I went with the Callaway driver, go ahead and throw the Callaway 3-wood and 5-wood in there. You see that the Callaway driver is what's best for me, but it looks like the TaylorMade 3-wood and 5-wood are what's going in the bag. So, you know, it's so important to get fit. If you have a second swing near you, highly suggest go out, get fitted. Get the right clubs in your bag and just watch as your scores plummet because you realize that you've been hitting the wrong clubs your entire career.
Well, Brian, this has been a lot of fun today.
Appreciate
you coming on in.
Thank you so much.